What you are about to hear is not from a movie. It is not from a dystopian novel. This happened in America in January of 2025 on a street in Minneapolis, Minnesota. A man named Alex Predhomme, a veterans nurse who spent his career caring for America's most wounded warriors in the ICU, was shot in the back by ICE agents and left to die in the street. No investigation was launched. No federal accountability followed. No justice was given. And when a concert was held to honor his memory, when 500,000 Americans tuned in to say his name, the President of the United States went on Truth Social not to mourn Alex, not to order an investigation, but to call the artists speaking out total losers with Trump derangement syndrome. Stay with me. Because what happened in Minneapolis is the most important story in America right now, and the fact that you may not have heard the full truth of it is exactly why I made this video. Alex Predhomme was a VA nurse. That means he worked in the Veterans Affairs hospital system, the places where America sends its most broken, most battle-scarred, most vulnerable veterans to heal. Alex was the person in the room when those veterans took their last breaths. He held their hands. He called their families. He was, by every account from the veterans who loved him, exactly the kind of human being that this country should be protecting. He was not a criminal. He was not a threat. He was not armed. He was shot in the back, and he was left to die in the street. And then, and this is the part that should make every single American's blood run cold regardless of your politics, the United States government did not investigate his death. Let that sink in for a moment. An American citizen shot by federal agents on American soil, and the government that is supposed to be accountable to the people decided his life was not worth investigating. His name was Alex Predhomme, and we will not forget him. And Alex was not alone in his tragedy. Renee Good was a mother of 3. She was, by all accounts, an ordinary American woman living her life in Minneapolis until federal troops arrived in her city, and she became another casualty of what the mayor of Minneapolis would later call a campaign of death and terror in the streets of an American city. Renee Good, mother, American, gone. The man who would later run for Congress in Virginia's 1st District, a fellow Navy fighter pilot named Jason Knapp, described watching Renee's death on television like this, and I want you to really hear this. I grew up with a single mom, and honestly, the worst fear of my childhood was losing my mom. When we all saw Renee Good killed on TV, it hurt me so bad. It brought back fears that I had long since forgotten. And I think often about her son, the fear that he is probably still feeling, and it just crushed me inside. This is not the America we fought for. A Navy F-18 pilot, a combat veteran, crushed. If you are not moved by that, if that does not make you want to demand answers, then I do not know what will. Now let's talk about the scale of what happened, because numbers matter here. At the height of the federal operation in Minneapolis, there were between 3,000 and 4,000 ICE and federal agents deployed to the city. The Minneapolis Police Department had 619 officers total. That means the federal government sent more than 6 times the number of law enforcement personnel into Minneapolis than the entire city police force combined. 6-to-1. Federal agents to local police in an American city. The mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, described it plainly. He called it an occupying force, and that is not hyperbole. That is math, and here is where it gets even darker. At one point, approximately 1,800 to 2,000 military personnel stationed in Alaska were on standby, ready to be deployed to Minneapolis under the Insurrection Act. Think about that. The United States military, the same forces designed to fight foreign enemies, positioned to march into an American city. Mayor Frey said something that I think deserves to be repeated everywhere. You can't have a federal government attempting to coerce a local municipality to enact a national agenda. You can't come in and say, we will remove that gun from your head if you simply hand over the voter rolls. That happens in other countries. It cannot happen here. The voter rolls. They wanted the voter rolls in exchange for withdrawing the federal occupying force. That is what happened in Minneapolis, America, in 2025. But here is where the story turns. And this is the part that gives me genuine hope, because Minneapolis did not break. Minneapolis did not hand over the voter rolls. Minneapolis did not bow. A few weeks after the federal troops arrived, after Alex Predhomme was murdered, after Renee Good was killed, after thousands of federal agents flooded the streets, the people of Minneapolis held a concert right there at the site of Alex's murder on Nicollet Street. The concert was produced by the Midas Touch Network and Valor Media, and it was headlined by the Dropkick Murphys, a band that has spent decades using music as a weapon against injustice. Over 500,000 people watched the live stream. Thousands more stood in the streets of Minneapolis in the rain and the cold. And here is what Ken Casey, the lead singer of the Dropkick Murphys, said about being there. This is like going to the 9/11 memorial. An American citizen should be here paying their respects and testifying to what they witnessed with their own eyes. Think about that framing, the 9/11 memorial. He is saying that what happened to Alex Predhomme, what happened on that street, deserves the same weight of national grief, the same permanent place in American memory as September 11th. And maybe he is right. One of the most powerful things about this concert, something that I do not think the mainstream media has fully covered, is who showed up. Veterans, dozens of them, many of them patients of Alex Predhomme himself. Men and women whose last moments of care in the VA ICU were in the hands of the man who is now being honored at this memorial. Think about what that means. These are people who were at their most broken, their most vulnerable, lying in a hospital bed, not sure if they were going to make it. And the person who cared for them was Alex. And when they heard what happened to him, they traveled to Minneapolis to stand in his honor. Veterans from across the country chanted together, and they did not just chant his name. They stood on that stage and recited the Pledge of Allegiance, and when the crowd reached the words, "With liberty and justice for all," the roar that went up from that crowd in the rain told you everything you need to know about what this moment meant to them. Liberty and justice for all. Not for some, not for citizens only, for all. And those veterans made it clear they are not going to stop, not until there is accountability, not until ICE is reformed, not until the names of Alex Predhomme and Renee Good mean something in the halls of American justice. Now let me tell you what the President of the United States chose to do in response to all of this. While veterans were gathering in the rain to honor a murdered nurse, while a mother of 3 was being mourned by her children, while 500,000 Americans were watching a concert dedicated to the memory of 2 people killed by his administration, Donald Trump went on Truth Social and called Bruce Springsteen, the artist who spoke out at a concert in Minneapolis and called the federal deployment a reactionary nightmare, a, quote, total loser with Trump derangement syndrome. That is what our commander-in-chief chose to spend his time on, not an investigation into the death of a VA nurse, not a statement of condolence to the children of Renee Good, not accountability, not transparency, not leadership. He attacked a rock star on social media. And you know what? I am almost glad he did, because every time Trump attacks the people telling the truth about what happened in Minneapolis, he amplifies the story. He sends more Americans searching for the names Alex Predhomme and Renee Good. He sends more people to the Dropkick Murphys. He sends more people here to videos like this one. So fine, Mr. President. Keep calling people losers. Because the 500,000 people who watched that concert live stream and the millions more who are going to find out what happened in Minneapolis, they are not going away. So what can you actually do? Because I know a lot of people watch videos like this and feel overwhelmed. They feel like the machine is too big, the injustice too entrenched, the government too powerful. But here is the truth that Minneapolis proved. Ordinary people showing up for each other is the most powerful force in a democracy. Soccer moms with signal chats dropping off food, veterans flying across the country to stand in the rain, a city of people who looked at the gun being held to their head and said, not here. Not us. Not America. Here is what you can do today. Number 1, say their names. Alex Predhomme, Renee Good. Share this video. Post their names. Do not let the algorithm bury this story. Number 2, if you are in Minneapolis or visiting, and the mayor invited everyone watching to come visit because it is a beautiful city getting warmer by the day, go spend money at a Latino-owned or Somali-owned small business. These communities were hit hardest by the federal operation. Your dollars are a form of resistance. Number 3, Pay attention to races like Virginia's 1st Congressional District, where Navy veteran Jason Knapp is running on a platform of holding this administration accountable. Democracy is changed election by election, district by district. Number 4, support independent media. The mainstream press is not going to keep this story alive. Independent journalists, podcasters, and video creators are the ones keeping Alex's memory and Renee's memory in the public conversation. I want to end with something the mayor of Minneapolis said that I have not been able to stop thinking about. When asked what this resistance is really about, when asked to define the spirit of a city that stood up to 4,000 federal agents, Mayor Jacob Frey did not say it was about politics. He did not say it was about ideology. He said it was about love, love for neighbors, love for community, recognition of a common humanity that binds us together. And in the end, that is what Alex Predhomme represented too, a man who held the hands of dying veterans, a man whose entire professional life was an act of love for people who had given everything. They took him from us. They took Renee Good from us, but they cannot take the love that brought 500,000 people to a live stream and thousands more to a rain-soaked street in Minneapolis on a cold winter night. Their names will not be forgotten. Alex Predhomme, Renee Good. If this video moved you, if you think this story deserves to be heard, please share it right now. It takes 5 seconds and it keeps a story alive that powerful people want buried. I will see you in the next one.